Hello everybody, Raven Knight here, coming at you with another faction love and hate video where I tell you about each hero from a certain faction and tell you one thing I love and one thing I hate about each one. Where did the series come from? Well, in a lot of my videos and streams, people ask me who my favorite hero is or who my least favorite hero is, what I like about certain heroes, what I dislike about certain heroes, and I figured I'd just go ahead and say it out front that I think every hero in the game has something to really like and admire about them, and every hero has something not to really like about them. So that's why I wanted to create this series. And so far we've done the Knights and the Vikings. Today we're going to do the Samurai. But before we get started, I do want to add a little disclaimer here because I think a few people misunderstood this series. I got a few comments in the last two videos telling me that they wish that I would take this more seriously, that they are surprised by some of my criticisms because they seem more joking in nature than they are actual critiques. And I want to say here, yes, that was kind of the point. You can probably tell by the thumbnail and by my overall demeanor that I'm not actually taking this all that seriously. I'm mostly just doing this for fun. Sometimes I may make a real critique of a hero, but more than anything, I'm just kind of saying this kind of stuff for fun. So if I make a joke about saying I dislike a hero's cosmetics, that's not a serious critique of the hero itself, just something that I don't particularly like about the hero very much. But hey, you know what? That's just me. If you guys want to make your own videos talking about what you love and hate about the heroes, feel free to, but don't insult me just because I'm having a little bit of fun here. The whole goal of this is to just have a good time, joke around, and enjoy the video. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into it, starting off with the Kensei. Kensei, what I love. Honestly, Kensei is probably the most well-balanced Vanguard hero that we have, and all around just really fun to play in 1s and 4s. There are some characters in the game that I look at and I say, this character was definitely designed to be more of a 4s character, while there are others who I'm like, this is definitely more designed to be a one-on-one character. Kensei can do both, and I think that they play really, really well. A lot of their whole kit comes from the mix up from their top unblockable, so I'll grant that that's kind of a bit repetitive with Kensei, but otherwise I really do think that Kensei stands out as a very strong and very well balanced hero. What I hate, that stupid 4th feat that makes all their attacks unblockable. That needs to be removed or reworked. It is such a cheap trick because all it requires the Kensei to do is just go into that 4th feat and start light spamming. I've tested this feat to see how effective it is. It is way too effective. I don't like it. That needs to be changed. I don't like that 4th feat. And I know some people are going to say, just light period. Yeah, well, I'm not good at that. Moving on. Shugoki. What I love. I think that Shugoki is one of my favorite heavies using one of my favorite weapons. I love his overall demon aesthetic. The Kanabo is an overall overlooked weapon in Japanese martial arts and history. I mean, look, when you think samurai, the first thing you always are going to think is the katana or sword similar to the katana. A lot of other weapons get tossed by the wayside, and the Kanabo is one of them. I think a lot of people really overlook this weapon, but I think it is such an underappreciated, really strong, really effective weapon that can be an armor breaker or a shield breaker. I think it's one that I think a lot of people are sleeping on, and seeing Shugoki use it in such a way is really, really cool, so I do love that about him, and the demon aesthetic really works. What I hate. Despite how awesome it is and how cool I think it is, I feel like Shugoki's a little too memeable. I think a lot of his emotes and executions treat him too much of a joke character, like this character who's just, you kind of want to laugh at more than you want to feel intimidated by. I mean, whenever I play Shugoki, a lot of people just joke about how he's the big boy or the meatball and stuff like that, and that's fine. I mean, the jokes are there and I understand why they're there, but I always feel like I want to see him be more than just the joke. I want to see him be more than just, haha, it's Shugoki, he funny, goofy, ha 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 ha. I want more than that. I feel like Shugoki should be taken a little bit more seriously, but unfortunately, the developers seem to want to go in the direction that he's a joke. So, hey, I guess that's where he's going to be. Orochi. Love. He's an overall well-designed hero who takes full advantage of swift response and react movements that I think this game was meant to capitalize on. I'm genuinely of the opinion that when this game was being created, they wanted to have this kind of player involved, this kind of character in mind. Someone who rapidly responds, reacts, baits you into a movement so that they can counter it. Orochi feels like the kind of character that For Honor was really catered to try to design, and playing against them, you see it. I can't tell you how many really skilled Orochi players I meet who just actually do play incredibly well, by baiting an attack and then doing a dodge cancellation to just play around with it. Their use of their deflect and then their rapid backstep and then light and then their mix up with their unblockable into guard break. There's a lot of things that Orochi just capitalizes on that I think this game was meant to cater around, but that does lead into my hate for it. He has way too much in his kit, I feel like. I mean, they did make some things fixed, like they did fix one thing that I wanted to see. They took away the undodgeable quality of the right and left side of his Storm Rush, which is his forward or back dash heavy, where he dashes at his opponent and does either a top, left, or right heavy attack. They took away the undodgeable quality of the right and left, which I think was definitely necessary, and he feels a lot better now. But some of his dodge cancellations feel a little bit too easy for him to pull off, and there are just times I just feel like he just gets way too oppressive. But that's just me. That's largely a skill issue and one problem that I have with them. They are way better than they were when they first started out, where they were just a light spam machine. That was very, very irritating. Nobushi. Love. Definitely the best waifu material. I mean, I'll be honest, like, Nobushi, people can get down bad for her very easily. She's got a very great design, and with her face finally being revealed thanks to the changes in her armor setup, it does make her look very, very cute, and a lot of people like to play her just for that reason alone, I feel like. But in terms of playability, I do think that, joking aside, she is a very usable character. She's very easy for new players to pick up, and her ability to bleed out an opponent makes her very good in 4s, though she's not very good in 1-on-1s. I think that it's very interesting to look at Nobushi and how different they are in a 4v4 matchup versus a 1-on-1 matchup. In a 1-on-1 matchup, their lights are almost too easy to read, whereas in a 4s situation, they can be very oppressive as long as the opponent isn't focused on them. So I think that there is a distinct difference there. And you know what? It's fine with me. I like playing them, and I like their overall look. But my hate for them goes into their dodge attacks. I think the worst thing about Nobushi is genuinely two things. Number one, she has no real opener outside of doing a kick with her hidden stance, but that's not really an opener. And two, her dodge attacks are way too reactable. Nobushi is capable of doing a dodge light and dodge heavy, but both are incredibly easy to react to, and both, if parried, which quite often they will be punished with a very quick and devastating heavy. So I feel like Nobushi needs to have it changed. Make it so that her dodge light still can be punished by a heavy, but make it so that her dodge heavy can only be punished by a light, because I do feel like that is not fair to Nobushi, since both of her dodge attacks are just so easy to read. I would change that. Aramusha. What I love. They have an actually pretty balanced kit that actually has an all guard with great versatility and utility. I think the big thing about Aramusha that a lot of people forget is that Aramusha is kind of what Varangian Guard was trying to be but couldn't quite be. A temporary all guard with versatility that comes off of it. The problem is Aramusha just does it so much better in how they implement it, and I just think Aramusha looks a lot cooler while doing it. I think Aramusha is honestly a very moderately good hero. I think that if I were to rank him, I'd put him around B tier or maybe even A tier. He's very strong, and smart Aramusha players are just so good about being able to whiff an attack and then drop into their all guard and just punish you for thinking, aha, I evaded their attack, only for them to get you. What I hate. The hat annoys me. I know for some people they don't mind the hat, but the hat annoys me. It looks big, it looks bulky, it looks goofy. I'm not a fan of it. If I were a warrior, I would take off that hat and go into just, without wearing that stupid hat. I wouldn't care for it. Oh, and I guess from a gameplay perspective, I guess I'm not a big fan of the fact that some of his heavy attacks, their tracking is insane. But I don't know as much about that. I'll just say that the hat annoys me. Shinobi. What I love. An incredibly versatile toolkit, giving them a wide array of options to use in various situations. Shinobi is like a Swiss Army knife rather than a straight-up Bowie knife. A Bowie knife can be used to kill people. A Swiss Army knife can be used for very, very, very different purposes. You can bash your opponent to death. You can catch him with an undodgeable heavy. You can catch him with an unblockable heavy. You can feint all that out to get him with a guard break. You have a double dodge kick, which is allowing you to not only dodge, but get a bash in very easily without much effort. You have a very strong deflect capability, which is insane. Your lights come out very, very quick. Just overall, Shinobi is nuts. I know there are a lot of people who are saying bring back the days where he could be ranged. Why would you want him to come back to those days? Shinobi was annoying back then, even more than he is now. I don't want him to go back to those days. You actually want to reverse the changes that made the Shinobi? Hell no, I don't want that. Keep Shinobi the way he is. I think Shinobi is just fine. What I hate: their smug aura mocks me. One of the problems I have with facing Shinobi is quite often the people who main Shinobi are smug. They are the kind of people who have mastered this character, know they've mastered an S-tier character, and are ready to flaunt it. Oh, it can be so difficult going up against a really skilled Shinobi who just plays around with his food and then messes with you at the end of the match. It can be very smug. But to be fair, I understand it. Whenever I get a win with Shinobi, I feel real good too. So I can't hate on that too much. Hitakiri. What I love. Hitakiri is probably the easiest character to use. I mean, they are literally just hold down heavy until you win. A great hero for beginners who need to get into the game and understand the use of a simple toolkit. Hitakiri's toolkit is deceptively simple. Most Hitakiris that I fight don't even use their light attacks because their variable timed heavies are just so effective, and the ability to cancel out of a kick into a guard break is absolutely devastating. Hitakiri is, like I said, just easy as pie to use, requires very little brain power to master. What I hate. Well, what I love is also what I hate. Many Hitakiri don't even need to try mixing up heavies with lights. They just vary time their heavies and toss in a bash here and there just to get credit off of it. There's so little skill involved in what makes those who play them arrogant and those who play against them furious. In my opinion, Hitakiri they have a very simple toolkit, but it's a toolkit that I think is way too strong and requires way too little brain power. And because of that, it just doesn't require any effort. Hitakiri is the easy man's warrior. You don't need anything to use them. I would rather play Warlord than play Hitakiri, just because Hitakiri to me is not only boring to use, but it's almost unfair to use with those variable timed heavies. It can be so difficult to use. Now you might be saying, well, Raven, hold on, weren't you just saying a minute ago that you like Shugoki? Shugoki's practically the same, isn't he? It's hard for me to explain, and I'm not even sure how I could possibly explain it. I would need to do a whole video talking about the differences between these two. But I think Shugoki is a little bit better in my opinion. Hitakiri feels like they were trying to be Shugoki, but took away a lot of what I love about Shugoki and put it into something a lot more reprehensible. Hitakiri is probably one of those heroes that I just really can't stand. I just can't stand going up against them. And right now I feel like a lot of the community is in the same boat with me. Kyoshin. Love. Of all the samurai, Kyoshin embodies anime tropes better than any of the others. I can feel the weeb energy rising to over 9,000 just saying his name. Kyoshin's one of these characters that has a personality that truly encapsulates the iconographic ideal of a weeb samurai. The way they hold their sword in a reverse grip, the way they kind of blindfold themselves, the way that they carry themselves, it just feels very weeb to me. But since this is the weeb team, it makes a lot of sense that they would do that. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of here for it. You might think that this is me being tongue-in-cheek, but actually I do kind of like that. I kind of like that there is a character for the anime fans to all gather around, because you can't tell me their cosmetics and style don't scream anime to you. But what I hate. Kyoshin's All-Guard is too safe in 4s. Of all the All-Guard characters, I think I hate them the most. Most Kyoshins in a gank will passively sit in an All-Guard and attack you only if they see an opening, and will otherwise just let your attacks bounce off so they can go into their light spam. Combining that light spam with their bleeding and healing feats, this makes Kyoshin ungodly annoying in a ganking situation. I can't tell you how many times I've gone up into a gank, I've been fighting someone, and Kyoshin just sits there in their All-Guard indefinitely. Because they know that if I try to focus on the Kyoshin and break them out of the All-Guard, I'll just be attacked by their teammate, and if I don't focus on them and try to focus on the enemy that I'm up against, they'll do an unblockable attack on me once my attention is lost away from them, or they'll just let one of my external hits knock off of their all guard, and then they'll just slam into me with a triple light attack, which not only bleeds me but heals them. And if I'm up against a shaman, oh help me Jesus, because I'll be devastated. Because of this, Kyoshins become absolutely oppressive in 4s and in the gank, and it becomes so painful to go against them. Something has to be changed. Maybe make it so that their all guard doesn't passively regenerate stamina, like maybe lock their stamina, or make it that they do a little less bleed or something. I don't know. Right now it is just too safe to go into an all guard stance in a 4v4 gank situation with Kyoshin, and I feel like you just can't punish them enough for it. But maybe that's a skill issue, but that's just how I feel about it. Sohei. Love. Love him or hate him, one of the most unique fighting styles in the game and an overall cool presence. I'll be honest, before I even started playing Sohei, even before I got early access, his appearance blew my mind. I loved his look, I loved his style, I loved the whole reference to Benkei. All of his overall aesthetic blew my mind. But then when I actually played him, I loved his play style. I thought it was very creative, very unique. When I watched the Warriors Den and they showed all the mocap they did to make his moveset work, I was incredibly impressed. I think he's a very impressive hero and a sign that For Honor can still cook in terms of character design. But what I hate, he's way too weak overall with an underwhelming base attack strength, making him hard to use against high-level players. The problem with Sohei is just, in order to play Sohei effectively, you need to use his funny button. You need to use his 95 damage strike attack. Getting into it in a 4v4 situation is incredibly difficult and incredibly hard to do. And by the end of it, it's probably not even worth it. Because if you get properly ganked as a Sohei, you're going to lose all the souls you work so hard to get. You don't do enough damage with your base moveset to make anything meaningful. And honestly, he's just not a good character to use overall in those situations. I've managed to make him work plenty of times against people who get a little too cocky or against people who don't expect what I'm going to do. But honestly, without his feats, he would be incredibly useless. He would be incredibly useless as a character. What Ubisoft needs to do is they need to up his damage numbers for his base kit and down his overall damage numbers for his funny button. Drop it from 95 to 60. You know, drop it from 95 to 60 because that's still a significant amount of damage from that move. And if a person doesn't feel comfortable being able to go into that move, they can still get decent damage from their basic attack set. Or, you know, another way you could do it is make their zone attack always uninterruptible, or make it so that you can't interrupt their funny button attacks. Something like that. He needs something to make it more viable because right now he is probably the weakest character in the roster. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all the Samurai. I hope you enjoyed this one a bit more. I did go into a little bit more detail with this one because, honestly, I care a lot more about the Samurai than some of the other characters because some of them I think are really, really fun. Others I think are really, really difficult. But I wanted to talk more about this one because this is one that I really, really enjoy. What do you guys think? Do y'all agree or disagree with this list and my love and hate for them? Let me know down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care.